Okay, in this video we're just going to go over some of the selected problems in the assignment that you have in front of you. And then as I do that, then hopefully you'll get questions answered that you might have. So I've just selected a few, so we're going to start with number 9. And so as we do this problem, we're going to notice that on the bottom we have some stuff to take care of inside the parentheses. Notice that that's a negative coefficient. And so we treat that differently than an exponent. So I'm going to take this little pieces at a time. I'm going to start with a new fraction bar. I'm going to do the x to the third. I like to write it out this way just to make sure I've got everything. Okay, on the bottom, everything in the parentheses is to the second power. So I've got negative 1 to the second power, x to the negative second to the second power, y to the negative second to the second power. Now the 2xy, that's not to the second power, so I'm going to write it like that. Now this part right here, x to the negative second to the second, that's x to the negative 4. Since the exponent's negative, that means it's going to move. So I will have the original x to the third y, and then I'm going to have x to the fourth. Same reason, this is going to be y to the negative fourth, and so that's going to move up to the top. And then I've got negative 1 squared, which is 1, times 2, and then xy on the bottom. So simplifying everything, I'm going to have x to the 7th, y to the 5th, over 2xy. And then I'm going to simplify by canceling common factors. So I'll be left with x to the 6th, y to the 4th, over 2. And that's going to be my answer. Okay, the next one we're going to do is number 14. So with this one, we've got all of the stuff that's inside the parentheses, and what we need to do is we need to clean all of that up before we start worrying about that 3. So I'm going to just take a new fraction bar. The negative in front, that's a coefficient, I'm going to leave that. The 3 stays, the x to the negative 1 is going to come down here. Y to the third stays put. The 2 stays put. The x stays where it is. The y to the second stays where it is. This negative 3, that's still a negative 3. It's not the exponent, and it doesn't move it. And then x to the second power. So this is all still in my parentheses. So what I've got right here is I've got a negative divided by a negative, so it's going to be positive. I've got the 3's, they're going to cancel. I've got y to the third over y to the second, so I'm going to have y. On the bottom I'll have 2, and I've got x to the 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'm going to take that, and that's what's going to be raised to the third power. So I'm going to have y to the third power, 2 to the third power, which is not 6, it's 8. And then x to the fourth power to the third power, that's going to be x to the 12th power. Okay, the next one that we're going to do is number 18, and this is multiplying. So like we talked about, you're going to do the distributive property. So I'm going to do 4x times 7x, 4x times negative 6, and then 2 times 7x, and 2 times negative 6. So 28x squared minus, this is going to give me 10x minus 12, and that's my product. Okay, next one, number 22, we're going to multiply and use the distributive property. So I chose this one because it's a binomial times a trinomial. So 10r to the third power. In fact, let's pause this video right now. You try it and let's just make sure you got it right. Okay, 5r times negative r is negative 5r to the second power. 5r times negative 4 is negative 20r. Then I'm going to have negative 2 times 2r, negative 2 times negative r, and negative 2 times negative 4. We're going to combine our like terms. So 10r to the third is by itself. I've got r squares there, so negative 5 and negative 4. Then I've got negative 20 and positive 2r, and then plus 8. So, did you get it right? Okay, the next one that we're going to do is number 2 on the next page, and this is where we're going to factor using the GCF. Okay, so we're going to look at each term individually, and we're going to write or get the factors so we know what the GCF is. Now, you may be able to look at this and see what it is, but don't be overly confident in your abilities at this point. So I'm going to say 40. I see I've got a leading coefficient that's negative, so I know I'm going to take a negative out. So 40x to the 6th y, that's 8 times 5, and then x to the 6th y. 20 x to the 3rd y, that's going to be 4 times 5. And then 70 x to the 2nd y to the 2nd, that's going to be 7 times 2 times 5. So what do they have in common? They all have a 2, and they all have a 5. So you might have already figured out that 10 was going to be the GCF. They also have x and another x. They have x to the 2nd power, and they also have y. So my GCF is going to be 10 and then x to the 2nd y. But since I've got a leading coefficient that's negative, I'm taking that out as a negative number. And then what am I going to multiply by? So go back and look at what do you have left over. I have 4x to the 4th. Okay, check your signs. Make sure the signs are working out. So negative 10 times positive 4 is negative 40. So the next sign I'm going to have is going to be a plus right here, because a negative times a positive will be a negative, and that's what I want. So it's going to be 2x. And then last I'm going to have a minus sign, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And then I have 7y. And so my answer is this. Okay, the next one, number 8, I want you to pause the video and you try this one. Okay, the GCF on this one you should have gotten is 5xy to the 8th power. So if you didn't get that GCF right, then you're going to have it factored wrong. So that little piece of getting the GCF is really important. Okay, 5 times y to the 2nd, 5xy to the 8th times 3x, and 5xy to the 8th times negative 7x to the 7th. And that will be it. Okay, the last one we're going to do is we're going to look at one of the story problems on the back. Now, all of these story problems have to do with factors and binomials and creating a situation where it can be represented as a binomial. So I'm going to show you how to do number 11. You're going to have to think a little bit hard about some of these problems, maybe draw a picture, think about the situation, think about what you're trying to find. So number 11, it says a rectangular pool has a length that is 5 meters longer than the width. So I'm going to start by drawing a picture of a rectangle. Okay, it says the length is 5 meters longer than the width. I don't know what the width is, but I know the length is 5 meters longer than that. And it's important to use the same variable, otherwise it makes it a lot harder to solve this. It says express the area of the space of the pool. So in other words, how much area does this take up? Well, we know the area of a rectangle is length times width. So if I was going to express the area, it would be x squared plus 5x units squared. And that's the area in terms of x. Now the A, B, C, D, that's just to help you kind of work it out. So on this one, I don't have this on all of them, but you're going to kind of do this similar type steps. What is the length? What is the width? So how do they relate to each other? What is the formula for the area of a triangle? So length times width. What is the area of this triangle? Now, if we knew what x was, obviously we could get like a number, but we don't. So that's how you're going to be thinking about these problems. You need to draw a picture, think about what it looks like, how to represent that as a binomial, and so on. Okay, now you need to get to work on your assignment, and you can work together quietly, but we're not going to have the answer key available until about the last 5 minutes of class, because I want you to work on this yourself and see what you can figure out. So we'll see you later.